Let me start with a little story from a study that might surprise you. A few years ago, a clinical trial looked at older adults with low muscle strength, a condition often called sarcopenia. Now, sarcopenia isn't just a fancy medical term. It's one of the sneaky reasons people in their 60s and 70s feel unsteady on stairs, have trouble standing up from chairs, or start limiting their walks. It's not that they've lost motivation, they've lost muscle. And not necessarily because of age, but because of nutrition, inflammation, and activity levels. Here's the kicker. In this study, when participants added just a few key micronutrients, yes, vitamins, to their daily intake, along with modest movement, they significantly improved their lower body strength in just weeks. So no, this isn't about miracle pills, but yes, certain vitamins really can support stronger legs, faster recovery, and better mobility if used in the right context. But let's pause for a second. If you're over 60, you've probably already heard 1,000 tips. Eat more protein, cut carbs, do squats, try collagen. There's no shortage of advice, and yet no clear map. That's why today's talk is different. We're not chasing fads, we're chasing function. The ability to stand tall, move freely, and feel capable in your body. This talk is about how a few scientifically backed vitamins, paired with small behavior shifts, can help your legs get stronger, faster, and more reliably than most people realize. Here's the big idea. Aging doesn't have to mean decline, not automatically. What if your legs weren't just getting older, they were getting less supported? What if you could change that? In this episode, I'll walk you through the 3 vitamins that research shows have the most powerful impact on muscle maintenance and mobility in seniors. Why these nutrients matter more now than they did in your 40s. The specific studies, randomized, controlled trials that point to faster gains in leg strength and how to implement this without relying on hype, overpriced supplements, or strict diets. This is about honoring your body and using science as a tool, not a weapon. And while we'll definitely talk about vitamin D, we'll go deeper into how it works and how it interacts with protein intake, muscle fiber activation, and yes, your lifestyle. So whether you're aiming to walk further, climb stairs without gripping the rail, or simply feel more confident in your body, this is for you. Let's begin with a quick reframe. Vitamins aren't just add plugs, they're catalysts, the spark plugs. And your legs, they're still capable of firing up with the right support. Let's start with something most people wouldn't associate with vitamin D, your ability to get up from a chair without using your hand. That simple act, a sit to stand, is actually one of the strongest predictors of independence in older adults. And researchers have noticed something fascinating. Older adults who struggle with this movement are often low in vitamin D, not just a little low, clinically deficient. Now, most of us think of vitamin D as the bone vitamin, but there's a growing body of research showing it's also deeply involved in muscle contraction and power output, especially in the lower body. In a 2014 randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, researchers supplemented older women, mean age 67, with vitamin D3 for 9 months. The results? Those with improved serum D levels also saw significant gains in leg strength and balance compared to the placebo group, and that's without changes in exercise. So what's actually happening? Vitamin D works like a hormonal switch. It helps your body synthesize proteins involved in muscle contraction, especially type 2 muscle fibers. Those are your fast twitch fibers, the ones responsible for movements like climbing stairs or catching yourself when you trip. As we age, we naturally lose type 2 fibers faster than type I. Vitamin D helps slow that process. Now, here's where it gets practical. About 40 to 60% of adults over 60 in the US are insufficient in vitamin D, depending on the season. If you're living in northern latitudes, avoid sun exposure, or have darker skin, your risk is even higher. And even if you eat well, it's tough to get enough from food alone. Fatty fish, egg yolks, and fortified dairy help, but they often fall short. So what do you do? First, know your baseline. Ask your doctor for a 25x-OHD blood test. That's the marker that actually tells us your vitamin D status, not a guess based on diet. If you're under 30 ng/ml, most experts agree that's too low for optimal muscle function. Some clinicians suggest aiming for 40-60 ng/ml in older adults with fall risk or mobility goals. Dosing varies, but a common range for seniors is 1000 to 22000 IU per day of vitamin D3, ideally taken with a meal containing fat to aid absorption. Also consider pairing it with magnesium, which is a cofactor that helps convert vitamin D into its active form in the body. A lot of people supplement D but never feel the effects because magnesium is the missing piece. Now, let's be clear. Vitamin D is not a magic fix, but it is a necessary piece of the puzzle, and when you put it in place, other things start working better. Your body starts responding more efficiently to movement. Your energy improves. Even your immune system gets a boost. And here's one more angle. Stronger legs mean more autonomy. It's not about vanity. It's about walking confidently, carrying groceries without fear, keeping up with your grandkids. That's real life health. So what's one small step if you haven't checked your vitamin D levels in the past year? That's your move. Then decide food, sun, or supplement, whatever fits best with your life. And hey, if this kind of science-backed practical nutrition info helps you cut through the confusion, take a moment to hit subscribe. It helps grow this community, and more importantly, it helps you stay grounded in facts, not fads. Let me paint a picture. Imagine your leg muscles are ready. They've got the strength. You've been walking, maybe doing some light resistance work, or you're even getting enough protein, but despite all that, your balance is a little shaky. You sometimes catch your toe on the edge of the carpet, or you pause before stepping off a curb. What if the issue isn't the muscle? It's the signal. Enter vitamin B12, a nutrient that often gets overlooked in conversations about strength, but plays a crucial role in how well your muscles and brain communicate. Vitamin B12 is essential for myelin formation. That's the protective sheath around your nerves. Without enough B12, nerve conduction slows down. Think of it like a frayed electrical wire. The signal gets weaker. The result? Slower reflexes, numbness, balance issues, and muscle misfires. In a 2020 study published in Nutrients, researchers followed a group of older adults and found that low serum B12 levels were strongly associated with slower gait speed, poorer balance, and increased fall risk. And here's the catch. Some participants had no classic symptoms of B12 deficiency, like fatigue or memory problems. Their only signs were in mobility. Now, how common is this? Unfortunately, B12 deficiency is surprisingly prevalent in adults over 60. Estimates suggest up to 20% may have low or borderline levels. And it's not always due to diet. In fact, many people eating omnivorous diets with meat and dairy are still low in B12. Why? Two key reasons. Absorption declines with age. As we get older, our stomachs produce less hydrochloric acid, which is needed to separate B12 from food. Without that acid, even a steak packed with B12 won't do much. Common medications interfere. Drugs like metformin for type 2 diabetes, proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole for acid reflux, and even some blood pressure meds can block B12 absorption over time. So what do? First, screening matters. A standard serum B12 test is a starting point, but it can miss functional deficiency. If your B12 is in the low normal range, say 200 to 400 pg/ml, and you have symptoms like balance issues, tingling, or weakness, push for additional tests like methylmalonic acid, MMA, or homocysteine. These give a better picture of whether your cells are actually using B12 effectively. If your levels are low or borderline, B12 supplementation is safe, inexpensive, and effective. And here's a nuance that gets missed. Sublingual B12, the kind that dissolves under the tongue, can be as effective as injections for many people. Why? Because it bypasses the gut and goes straight into circulation. The recommended daily intake for adults is just 2.4 mg, but for older adults with absorption concerns, doses of 250 to 500 mg/day or even higher are often used short-term to restore levels. It's water-soluble, so excess is excreted in urine, making toxicity incredibly rare. Now, let's connect this back to legs. When nerve signals fire more efficiently, muscles respond better, reaction time improves, posture stabilizes, the hesitation before stepping off a curb begins to fade. Over time, this can mean fewer falls, more confidence, and the freedom to move without fear. One participant in a community walking group I worked with shared this: "I didn't change my workouts, I just started taking B12 after a blood test, and suddenly I wasn't dragging my right foot anymore." That's the power of supporting not just your muscles, but your nervous system. So here's your reflection. Are you getting enough? Do you absorb what you eat? If you're taking medications, are they blocking absorption? Just one small action this week. Maybe a B12-rich breakfast with fortified cereal or eggs, or asking your doctor about a test, could set off a chain reaction towards stronger steps. And if that kind of practical, nuanced health info feels valuable, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're building something here, a community grounded in science, not fads. And you're part of it. There's a saying in physiology: structure enables function. In other words, strong muscles won't get you very far if your bones are brittle or your joints are stiff. And when we talk about leg strength after 60, there's a structural player that deserves way more attention than it usually gets: vitamin K2. Now, most people have heard of vitamin K. It's often mentioned in relation to blood clotting, but what they don't realize is that there are two main forms of this vitamin and they play very different roles. Vitamin K1 found in leafy greens like spinach and kale, and yes, great for blood clotting. Vitamin K2, manaquinate, found in fermented foods, egg yolks, and certain cheeses. And this is the one that has a major impact on your bones, joints, and even muscle efficiency. So what does K2 actually do? Here's where it gets fascinating. K2 acts like a traffic director for calcium. It tells calcium where to go into your bones and teeth, and just as importantly, where not to go, like your arteries, joints, or soft tissues. Let's say you're taking calcium and vitamin D for your bones. Great, but without enough K2, that calcium can get misdirected. It might harden in your arteries, increasing cardiovascular risk, or it might deposit around joints, reducing flexibility. K2's job is to activate two key proteins: osteocalcin, which helps bind calcium into bones, improving bone density; matrix GLA protein, which prevents calcium from building up in blood vessels and soft tissues. Now, why does this matter for leg strength? Because your leg strength isn't just about your muscles, it's about the bones and joints those muscles are attached to. And here's where it gets really interesting. A 2017 observational study in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging found that older adults with higher K2 intake had better leg extension power and walking speed, even after adjusting for age and exercise habits. And yet, most people over 60 are getting nowhere near enough K2. Why? Well, it's mostly found in fermented foods that aren't widely eaten in the Western diet. The richest source is natto, a traditional Japanese fermented soybean dish. And let's be honest, natto isn't exactly staple in most American kitchens. It's sticky, pungent, and an acquired taste, to put it kindly. But there are other options. Aged cheeses like Gouda and Brie, egg yolks from pasture-raised chickens, fermented dairy like kefir or yogurt with live cultures, and of course supplements, often labeled as MK7, a highly bioavailable form of K2. Doses in research range from 90 to 200 mg per ladder day, and it's generally safe, especially when taken alongside vitamin D and a small amount of fat to improve absorption. Now you might be wondering, why haven't I heard about this? That's a fair question. K2 doesn't get much spotlight because it's not required to be added to fortified foods. It's tricky to measure in blood, and it doesn't have a strong commercial lobby behind it, but the science is catching up. And if you care about functional aging, being able to move freely, squat comfortably, walk confidently, K2 may be one of the most underappreciated allies in your toolbox. So this week, consider trying just one new source. Maybe it's a probiotic yogurt with live cultures, or maybe it's looking into a K2 plus D3 supplement. Small shift, big potential ripple, because at the end of the day, we're not just trying to live longer, we're trying to move better longer. By now, you've probably noticed the theme. Every vitamin we've discussed, D, B12, K2 plays a vital role, but none of them works in isolation. That's one of the biggest mistakes we make when it comes to nutrition advice. We treat nutrients like solo artists, when in reality, they're part of a symphony. And to get real results, stronger legs, better mobility, more energy, we need the ensemble to work together. Let's take vitamin D as an example. You could take 2,000 IU of D3 daily and still not feel the effects if your magnesium is low. Magnesium is required to convert vitamin D into its active form, calcitriol, which your body actually uses. And about 50% of older adults are magnesium deficient due to lower dietary intake, medications like diuretics, and age absorption issues. Then there's protein, an obvious key player in muscle strength. But here's the nuance. Vitamin D enhances muscle protein synthesis. And when you combine D with resistance training, even light body weight movement, the muscle building effects are magnified. In a 2019 meta-analysis in Osteoporosis International, researchers found that older adults who combined vitamin D supplementation with strength training saw significantly greater gains in leg press power compared to those who did either intervention alone. The synergy was clear. Vitamins support the environment for muscle to grow, but movement is a signal that tells your body to use that environment. Now, it works the other way too. A healthy nerve needs B12, but it also needs omega-3 fatty acids to maintain membrane fluidity. And while omega-3 acids like EPA and DHA are usually associated with brain and heart health, they also play a subtle but important role in neuromuscular transmission, the way nerves and muscles communicate. Then we have vitamin K2, which helps move calcium into bone, but did you know it works best when vitamin A and D are present? It's like a relay team. One activates, one transports, one locks the mineral in place. So what does this all mean? Practically, it means that if we want stronger legs, better mobility, and a lower risk of falls, we can't just think in isolated fixes. We need to look at the nutrient network, how one deficiency might block another nutrient from working, the food matrix. Why a piece of salmon or a bowl of lentil soup is more than the sum of its macros. Your lifestyle signals how even modest activity tells your body to use the nutrients you give it. Think of your body as a construction site. The vitamins are the tools, the protein and fats are the raw materials. Without movement, without the signal to build, nothing happens. No one picks up the hammer. That's why we don't just recommend supplements and call it a day. We recommend integrated action. A bit of sunlight, a balanced plate, a short walk after lunch, and maybe a light resistance band session while watching TV. Nothing fancy, just telling your body it's still needed, still adaptable, still capable of growth. So here's your invitation. Don't just take the vitamins, use them. Get outside for 10 minutes after breakfast to activate vitamin D. Add a small portion of fermented food to lunch to support your K2. Hydrate and get a little magnesium in through leafy greens or pumpkin seeds. Stack habits, not stress, because ultimately the most powerful interventions are small, consistent synergies, not isolated heroics. Let's talk about something that doesn't often show up in vitamin commercials. Values, because behind every capsule of vitamin D or B12 is a system, a farm, a factory, a decision. And while supplementation can be incredibly helpful, even necessary, especially as we age, we need to talk about the bigger picture. Let's start here. Food first, always. That's not just philosophy, it's physiology. Our bodies evolved to extract nutrients from whole foods where they come packaged with fiber, cofactors, and thousands of other bioactive compounds that we're only just beginning to understand. When you eat a spinach salad or a bowl of black beans, you're not just getting vitamins, you're feeding your gut microbiome, improving blood sugar response and supporting long-term satiety. This matters, especially for people over 60. Because real foods are doing more than one job. They're protecting your heart while supporting your legs. They're reducing inflammation while delivering magnesium and potassium. They're flavor, ritual, and medicine all in one. But sometimes food alone isn't enough, and that's where supplements can step in. Wisely, take B12 for example. If you have low stomach acid or are on medications like metformin or PPIs, you could be eating the perfect diet and still be deficient. In this case, a sublingual B12 supplement isn't just convenient. It's responsible. It respects your physiology. Same with vitamin D. If you live in northern latitudes, avoid the sun for good reasons, or have darker skin, you may need supplemental D3. And that's not a failure of diet, it's an adaptation. But here's where I'd invite us to ask, what kind of supplements are we choosing? And what systems are we supporting by taking them? Because not all supplements are created equal. Some are third-party tested for purity and potency. Others are filled with binders, artificial colors, or unnecessary additives. Some are sustainably sourced, while others come from animal sources, produced in ethically questionable conditions. For example, vitamin D3 is typically derived from lanolin, a wax from sheep's wool. Not inherently bad, but worth knowing. If you're plant-based or trying to reduce reliance on animal products, look for lichen deregulated D3, a more sustainable vegan option. Vitamin K2, especially the MK7 form, is often extracted from fermented soybeans, a great choice. But some cheaper forms come from synthetic sources with less bioavailability. So here's a practical approach I recommend. Use food as your foundation: eggs, leafy greens, fermented foods, fortified cereals. These aren't just nutrition delivery vehicles, they're meals that anchor your day. They provide context, not just content. Supplement only when needed, and do it intentionally. Check your levels, talk with a health provider, and choose supplements that align with your personal values and your body's needs. Support companies and products that support transparency. Look for third-party testing, NSF, USP, or Consumer Lab, sustainable sourcing, and ethical practices. You vote with your dollars. Not just for your health, but for the planet's. This mindset, which we sometimes call stealth nutrition, is about aligning what's good for you with what's good for your community, your environment, and your long-term future. Because when you make choices that are both nutritionally intelligent and ethically grounded, your health isn't isolated, it's integrated. It ripples out. And the truth is, most of us want to feel strong, not just so we can move better, but so we can live better, show up for others, stay independent, contribute, thrive. So yes, supplements can be powerful tools, But food is still the foundation and values are the frame. Let's be honest. Most health advice sounds great on paper. Eat more leafy greens. Take these 3 vitamins. Strength train 3 times a week. It all makes sense, but it doesn't always make it into your day. And that's not because you lack discipline. It's because life is complex and real change only lasts when it fits who you are and how you live. And here's the truth we learned over and over again in behavior change research, including in the DFIT study where we followed over 600 people for a year. It's not the perfect plan that wins. It's the plan you can actually live with. So how do we take these insights about vitamins D, B12, and K2 and how they help with leg strength and aging well and make them stick? We do it by focusing on behavioral fit, not just clinical effect. Let's break that down. 1, start with just 1 shift, not an overhaul, a pivot. If you try to change 5 things at once, new supplements, new meals, new workouts, your brain treats it like a stressor. But if you change 1 thing, your brain treats it like a choice, a move you made on your own terms. So maybe that means starting your day with a vitamin D3 plus K2 soft gel next to your coffee, or adding a fortified B12 cereal or yogurt to your breakfast. 1 thing, simple, daily. 2, stack the habit. Don't force it. The most sustainable changes happen when they're connected to something you're already doing. If you're already taking a walk after lunch, that's the perfect time to get a little sun exposure, which helps your vitamin D. If you always read before bed, keep your magnesium or B12 supplement on your nightstand. This is called habit stacking, and it works because it piggybacks on existing brain pathways. 3, use environmental nudges. Behavioral psychology teaches us that what we see, we do. If your supplements are in a cabinet behind the blender under a box of crackers, you'll forget them. But if they're in a small tray next to your toothbrush or next to your morning teacup, you'll remember. Same goes for food. Put the yogurt or kefir near the front of the fridge. Put leafy greens in a clear container, not an opaque bag. You don't need more motivation, just better visibility. 4, track outcomes that matter to you. Rather than focusing on arbitrary goals like hit 1200 meters calcium, try noticing what improves when you stay consistent. Maybe you get up from the couch more easily, or feel steadier going downstairs. Maybe your daily walk gets a bit longer without fatigue. Behavioral science tells us that intrinsic rewards like better energy, fewer falls, or more confidence are far more motivating than abstract numbers. So tune into your own experience. Ask yourself, what's 1 small improvement I've noticed since making that shift? Anchor it to your why. Nobody wants stronger legs just to flex. We want them to walk the dog, to garden, to travel, to pick up our grandkids, to live with agency. That's your why, and it matters more than willpower. So write it down. I take these steps so I can stay independent, so I can feel like myself. That kind of clarity is what sustains behavior, even when life gets chaotic. Because ultimately, better health isn't about perfection. It's about pattern recognition and persistence. You notice what's working, you keep showing up, and you shape your routine slowly, intentionally, around the person you want to keep becoming. That's the journey we're on. Not chasing shortcuts, but building strength 1 grounded step at a time. And let's take a step back. We've covered a lot. 3 vitamins, several studies, and even a few fermented foods you might still be working up the courage to try. But if we zoom out, here's what we've really learned. Vitamin D supports your fast twitch muscle fibers, those powerful reaction-based fibers that help you climb stairs, catch yourself if you stumble, and rise from a chair with confidence. Vitamin B12 protects your nerve pathways so the signals from your brain actually reach those muscles. Fast, clean, and clear. Vitamin K2 directs calcium into your bones and away from joints and arteries, improving structure, mobility, and long-term function. And we saw how these don't work alone. They need cofactors like magnesium, the signal of movement, and the synergy of food and lifestyle. We talked about how food comes first and how ethical sourcing matters, not just for our health, but for the planet and future generations. And we ended with what might be the most important part, how to make this stick. Because knowledge doesn't create change, systems do. Routines, clarity, support, a sense of why it all matters. So if you take 1 thing from this conversation, let it be this. You are not too old to build strength. You are not too far gone to reclaim function. And you are not alone in trying to figure this out. I've seen it in real people, not just in studies. I've seen someone go from fearing steps to hiking again. I've seen confidence return after a single nutrient was corrected. I've seen mobility regained. Not from chasing trends, but from getting the basics right. And here's the reframe I want to leave you with. Stronger legs are not the goal. Stronger legs are the means to the life you want. They help you walk with your grandkids, travel with less fear, stay independent, move freely, feel like yourself again. That's the real win. And that's why this work matters. So here's your gentle challenge. Try one plant-based vitamin-rich meal this week. Maybe some leafy greens with tahini or a warm bowl of lentils with fermented veggies. Spend 10 minutes in the sun if you can. Or ask your doctor about a B12 or D test next time you're in. Just one thing. That's how real change begins. And if this approach resonates, evidence-based, practical, grounded in real life, I'd love for you to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. We're building a community here of people who care about health, not hype, who want science that respects their intelligence and tools that meet them where they are. So thank you for being here, for caring about your health, for staying curious, and for taking one more step toward strength, vitality, and a life you can keep living fully. See you in the next episode.